And as the Tory leadership race continues, candidates coming under renewed pressure to address the cost of living crisis. So let's get more from the former Chief Whip and the supporter of Rishi Sunak, Mark Harper, who joins us now live. Mark Harper, good to have you with us. Good morning to you. So are we going to see Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss sitting down with the current Prime Minister to try and put a plan in place before the new person that takes over in number 10?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think what is very important is that Rishi's made it clear that we're looking at energy bills likely to be higher than what we were expecting when he set out his plans when he was Chancellor in May. What he said is that therefore will require more help being delivered. And he's going to set that out in detail once we know exactly what the new energy price cap will be in October. But he's set out that it's going to be along the lines of the framework that he already has used. So a mix of rebates on bills and direct support to those people who are the poorest and most vulnerable. By contrast, Liz Truss has said that she's not going to deliver what she calls handouts, and she's only going to cut tax. And the problem with that is it gives a big tax cut to the Prime Minister, £1,810 a year, but only £59 to somebody working full-time on the national living wage, and nothing at all to pensioners. So I think what Rishi is setting out is the right plan, which I hope will provide a lot of reassurance and comfort to those who are worrying this winter about how they're going to pay their energy bills.
Yeah, of course. So we'll come on to Liz Truss in a moment. I just want to push you on this. Why don't you think they'll sit down? I mean, I know that Gordon Brown suggested it, and I know that it's been suggested again by Ed Davey earlier today. You're saying that they're not going to do it, but many people watching will be wondering why, during a time when we're expecting bills to go up so massively and people are struggling to understand how they're going to pay for those bills, you guys aren't sitting down to try and work out a plan that doesn't involve starting after the 5th of September.
Well, look, very clearly there's a fundamental difference of opinion between the two leadership candidates. So Rishi thinks that we are going to need to give direct support to people because if you're going to help the poorest and most vulnerable, you can't just cut their taxes because they don't pay a lot of tax. Liz Truss thinks that you can simply cut national insurance, but that gives a big boost to people on the biggest incomes, doesn't help pensioners at all, and gives very little help to people on the national living wage who are working full time. So there's a big difference of opinion there. What will happen is that the civil service will work out both options so that they'll be ready for whoever's going to win and become Prime Minister on the 6th of September. But Rishi thought it was very important that we give people some peace of mind. So he's made it clear that if he were elected, he would use the frameworks that he's already set out and would deliver more help, because it's clear that energy prices are going to be, I think, about £600 higher, we're expecting, than we were expecting back in May. And he'll set out the details of that once Ofgem have confirmed the level of the price cap, which will be at the end of this month.
Yeah, I mean, you call it a difference of opinion, but people watching will be thinking and feeling anxious that they're going to have to just wait until they see how much this price cap is going to increase by, how much more their bills are going to increase by, while you guys are concerned about opinions. And it feels to many like it's ego that means you can't get in the room together.
Well, not at all. It's just a very difference of approach. Rishi, I think, is setting out the right approach. And I think people can judge him on his track record. So when he became Chancellor, just a month later, we were faced with the COVID pandemic and millions of people were scared about their jobs and about their businesses. He got the Treasury to respond within days and rolled out a very significant plan. People remember the furlough scheme and all the money to help keep businesses going. And they still remember that. And I think they can look at his track record. He had their backs during that crisis. And when he was Chancellor early this year, he rolled out the package of support that, by the way, currently hasn't all yet been delivered. People haven't had the discounts off their bills yet. That kicks in October. We have delivered the first level of support to the poorest and most vulnerable. There's more of that still to come. So there is actually a lot of help in the system that Rishi put in place when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yeah, but it is accepted, isn't it, by you, Mr Harper, that it will be inadequate with the rise that we're expecting to come. And I do wonder further on Liz Truss and her candidacy. You haven't held back this morning in criticising her plans, and you haven't held back on social media criticising her plans. So I do wonder, how do you expect to be able to work potentially in a government that is run by Liz Truss?
Well, two things. First of all, in a leadership election, the different candidates set out their stalls and challenge each other on the positions they set out. And then when that leadership election is over, whoever wins, obviously everyone comes together. I happen to think that Rishi has a very good chance.
Sorry, Mr Harper, just to interject. It does feel a little bit more than that, doesn't it, right now? Because obviously this is the new Prime Minister and you are speaking to the country, and this person will be leading our country through what may very well be a very difficult winter for people economically.
Yes, and in fact, it's because it's going to be such a difficult winter, and because the single most important thing that the government is going to have to deal with is this economic crisis, that I'm supporting the candidate who I think has got the best plan to help people through the winter. We are going to have to give people direct support. Liz Truss has ruled out giving out what she calls handouts. That means leaving pensioners and the poorest and most vulnerable without the help that they're going to need to get through this winter and to pay their energy bills. Rishi Sunak thinks that we do need to help them. And I think that that message is going to land with Conservative members. Conservative members want a government that supports the most vulnerable and those who need our help to get them through the winter. And I think in the end, that's why they'll end up supporting Rishi Sunak and why he'll win this contest and become Prime Minister on the 6th of September.
Now, as you've seen this morning in the Times, the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab has said that if Conservative Party members follow Liz Truss and vote for her, they'll be writing an electoral suicide note. Do you agree with that?
Well, I do. I think if a government was if she were elected and she weren't to help the poorest and most vulnerable people in society, which is what she said she's not going to give them direct support, then I think that would be enormously damaging to our prospects. The Conservative Party has to be rooted in reality. It has to look at the situation facing the country. It's a massive economic challenge, and I think you need somebody who's got the grip and the experience to deal with that economic challenge. The voters think that Rishi has that economic experience. That's why swing voters, those voters who voted for us in 2019, who aren't currently planning on voting for us, massively support him over Liz Truss. He has a 20-point lead amongst those voters. And if we want to win that election when it comes, then I think Rishi Sunak is the man to put into Downing Street.
And you're happy with the kind of language used, a suicide note?
Well, look, I think if the government doesn't help the poorest and most vulnerable people to get through the winter, to pay their energy bills and to put food on the table, then I think that will be electorally very damaging, which is why Rishi said more help is needed. And you referred to giving people peace of mind. He's set out the fact that if he becomes Prime Minister, there will be more help. People can rely on that assurance, looking at his track record through the pandemic and through the energy prices he's already delivered when he was Chancellor. And I think that will provide reassurance and peace of mind to people as they're contemplating what is going to be a very difficult winter for many, many people.